The ring shattered on the day humanity learned it was not alone. It had been a monument to hubris, a perfect band of steel and light encircling a dying star, its surface studded with cities that gleamed like jewels. For centuries, the Elysian ring thrived, its inhabitants blissfully ignorant of the fractures spreading beneath their feet. The core's engineers dismissed the tremors as cosmic static. The Edge's scavengers, who mined the ring's underbelly for scraps, knew better. They felt the groans in their bones, tasted the metallic rot in the air, but their warnings dissolved in the core's gilded halls, drowned by symphonies and the clink of wine glasses. When the cataclysm came, it arrived without fire or sirens. One moment, the ring stretched unbroken. The next, it fractured into 1,000 jagged shards, each fragment spinning into isolation. Millions perished in the silence of vacuum. Those who survived clawed their way into the ruins. The Edge's gutted slums, the Belt's lawless flotillas, the core's shielded citadels, all ignorant of the shadow that had watched, and waited, and pushed. The Kythax came after, drawn to the Voidmatter bleeding from the ring's wounds. They offered the core power, the Edge vengeance, the Belt survival. Their bargains were sealed in secrets, their true faces hidden behind holograms and honeyed lies. They did not need armies. Grief, they found, was a far sharper weapon. Now the fragments spiraled toward oblivion, their cultures calcifying into rival tribes. But in the dark between stars, old machines stir, relics of the ring's architects, who understood too late that some silences are not empty, they are hungry. And the Kythax are not the only ones listening. Chapter 1. The Edge ring stank of ozone and desperation. Taryn Vosk adjusted her breather mask, its fraying straps chafing her jaw as she navigated the skeletal market stalls of Hollow Spire Outpost. Vendors hawked corroded engine parts and fungus-grown protein bricks under the sickly violet glow of the fragment's failing atmospheric shields. She kept one hand on the pistol at her hip, not that it mattered. The core's enforcers had stripped the Edge of anything resembling value decades ago. All that remained were ghosts, and the fools who still believed they could outrun entropy. Her ship, the Dusk Crow, crouched in Dock 7 like a scavenger bird, its patched hull bristling with stolen thrusters. She ran a palm along its pockmarked flank, feeling the hum of the reactor through her gloves. It was an ugly thing, all jagged angles and mismatched plating, but it had carried her through 6 blockade runs, 6 near-death dances with core interceptor. Each scar on its hull mirrored her own. The burn along her ribs from a plasma graze, the knotted tissue on her thigh where shrapnel had bitten deep. Survival was a language she'd learned young, syllables etched in smuggled rations, and silent midnight launches. The message had come at third bell, encrypted in the crow's flickering hollow display. Ironbreak needs a pilot. Docking Bay Sigma, sunset. No signature, but she knew the codes. Knew the rumors too. Whispers of rebels carving core supply lines into ribbons. Of a shadowy strategist who outmaneuvered fleet admirals like they were children playing at war. She'd laughed when she first heard them. Hope was a currency thinner than air out here. But the crow's fuel cells were dry, and the tremors rippling through Hollow Spire's decks grew louder each week. The fragment was dying. So was she, if she stayed. Ma Bay Sigma crouched at the Edge's fraying terminus, its magdocks open to the void. Taryn's boots magnetized to the grated walkway as she approached, the crow's engine still cooling at her back. A figure waited in the bay's sulfur-yellow emergency lights, backlit and sharp-edged. Vosk. The voice was a blade wrapped in velvet. "You're late." Varek Syth stepped into the light, and she understood why the Ironbreak operatives she'd met in dank cantinas spoke his name like a prayer and a curse. His face was a study in calculated asymmetry. A scar split his left brow, pulling his expression into a permanent half-sneer, while his right eye glinted with the cold sheen of a cybernetic implant. He wore no insignia, but the cut of his black fatigue screamed core design, tailored to millimeter precision. A strategist's uniform, a ghost's uniform. "Your message didn't specify punctuality," she said, matching his tone. Let him taste her edge-born grit. His implant whirred faintly as it scanned her. "You've flown the Kessel Run, modified your ship's thrusters to bypass core thermal trackers. Adequate. Adequate." The word prickled. She'd bled for those modifications. "I didn't come for a performance review. You need a pilot. I need creds. Let's negotiate." Negotiation implies parity. He flicked a hologram into the air between them, a star map of the Edge, its fragments glowing like broken teeth. You'll take a team to the core supply depot on fragment G12. Disable their defenses. Extract the cargo. She studied the map. G12 was a mid-ring fortress. All durasteel spires and overlapping ion shields. Suicide. Only if you're sentimental. His lips twitched. Not a smile. A predator's reflex. The crow's stealth plating can breach their perimeter. You'll have 5 minutes before their scanners adapt. Wind howled through the bay's cracked viewports, carrying the metallic tang of decaying infrastructure. Taryn flexed her fingers. Phantom aches from old burns flaring. She'd spent years avoiding core attention, skulking through debris fields, but the hunger in her gut, the one that had gnawed through every ration bar and hollow victory, twisted sharper. This was a chance to strike back, to matter. What's the cargo? Classified. Then find another pilot. She turned toward the crow. Let him choke on his arrogance. Voidmatter. She froze. The word slithered into her skull, oily and resonant. Core's most guarded resource. The fuel that powered their dreadnoughts. Their immortality. Varek closed the distance between them, his breath fogging in the bay's chill. One canister would buy you a new ship, a new life, but you don't want that, do you? His gaze scraped over her like a scalpel. You want to watch their towers burn. The raid began in silence. Taryn guided the crow through G12's defense grid, her hands steady on the controls. Behind her, 4 Ironbreak soldiers crouched in the cargo hold, their breath shallow. She'd refused to learn their names. Names were anchors, and anchors sank ships. Varek's voice crackled in her earpiece, stripped of effect. Turn 32 degrees starboard. There's a blind spot in their sensor sweep. She obeyed, teeth gritted. His directions were flawless, a chess master moving pieces across a board he'd memorized. The crow slipped through the shields like a shadow, settling on the depot's landing pad. Chaos unfolded in gradients. First, the hiss of breaching charges, then the staccato rhythm of pulse rifles. Taryn stayed aboard, monitors flickering as she tracked the team's progress. Green dots pulsed on her screen. 2 soldiers down, their signals flatlining. She wondered if Varek was watching from some distant bunker, calculating acceptable losses. A scream ruptured her comms. Ambush. They knew we. Static. Core enforcers swarmed the depot, their ivory armor gleaming under floodlights. Taryn's hand hovered over the ignition. Protocol demanded she flee. Survival whispered it, but the Voidmatter glowed in the depot's vault, a siren pulse of cobalt light. Varek's voice again. Override the crow's safeties. Ram the vault. That'll shred my engines. You'll retain enough thrust to escape. Do it. Her knuckles whitened. The crow was a relic, a patchwork of salvage and stubbornness. It wouldn't survive, but neither would the soldiers, the ones still screaming over comms. She fired the thrusters. Metal shrieked as the crow plowed through the vault doors. Alarms wailed. Taryn's vision blurred, the G-forces crushing her into her seat. When the ship lurched to a stop, she vomited into her helmet, bile stinging her nostrils. Somehow, she staggered into the vault. 2 surviving rebels loaded Voidmatter canisters onto a hover sled, their faces bloodied. One nodded at her, gratitude or condemnation. She couldn't tell. Varek's hologram flickered above her wrist comm as the crow limped back into the void. Efficiency rating 78%. Adequate. She wiped vomit from her lips. Go to hell. We're already there, Vosk. You just haven't noticed. They met again in Ironbreak's hidden hangar, a cavernous tomb carved into fragment B7's bedrock. Taryn leaned against the crow's landing strut, watching Varek inspect the Voidmatter. His fingers brushed the canister's surface, reverent. This will fund 3 more strikes, he said, and the soldiers you fed to the core. Necessary. She kicked off the strut, her boot clanging against metal. You sent them in blind. Knew the ambush was coming. His cybernetic eye narrowed. Sentiment is a luxury. You'd sacrifice 1,000 lives to end Core's reign. Not you. A flicker crossed his face, something raw fleeting. No. You're not. He turned to leave. She grabbed his arm, her gloves squealing against his armor's polymer weave. Why join Ironbreak? Core bred you and trusted you. For a heartbeat, the hangar's shadows deepened. Then he wrenched free. Ask better questions, Vosk. The truth found her 3 nights later. Taryn dreamt of her father, not the corpse he'd become. Radiation bloated, skin sloughing off bone, but the man who'd taught her to chart stars. Look for the fractures, he'd said. tracing constellations on their shack's rusted ceiling. That's where the light gets in. She woke sweating, the crow's cabin thick with the stench of decay. Except it wasn't memory, it was real. She followed the odor to Hangar 9, a sector even Ironbreak's grunts avoided. The door hissed open. Pods, hundreds of them, glassite cylinders pulsing with amniotic fluid. Inside, creatures writhed, pale, multi-jointed things with translucent skin. Kythax larvae. Her stomach lurched. They fed on Voidmatter, their tendrils buried in canisters like roots in soil. Footsteps echoed. Varek stood in the doorway, his face a mask. You lied. Her voice trembled. This isn't a rebellion. It's a harvest. The Kythax accelerate collapse. We control the timeline. You're killing us. He stepped closer, his breath hot against her ear. The fragments were doomed the moment the ring shattered. This way we choose who survives. She drew her pistol. He didn't flinch. Shoot me, and you'll never know why they exiled me. Why I need this. The crow's key burned in her pocket. She ran. Core enforcers caught her at Hollow Spire's edge. She'd hoped to rally the outpost, to scream the truth until someone listened. But Varek had anticipated her, always anticipating. They clamped her wrists in mag cuffs, their armor reeking of antiseptic and privilege. As they dragged her to the transport, she glimpsed him watching from a shadowed alcove. His fingers brushed his scarred brow, a salute or a farewell. The last thing she saw was the edge's crumbling skyline, its jagged spire silhouetted against the void. Fragments within fragments, drifting toward annihilation. Chapter 2. The core's prison was a mausoleum of light. Taryn woke to the sterile glare of white panels humming above her, their luminance searing even through closed eyelids. Her wrists were bound to a metal slab, the cold leaching into her bones. She'd heard stories of core interrogation chambers, how they scrubbed the air of scent, of texture, until the mind unraveled from the sheer absence of aliveness. But this was worse. Silence, vast and suffocating, pressed against her eardrums. No drip of water, no scuttle of vermin, just the rhythmic click of a surveillance drone circling overhead, its lens a cyclops eye. They had taken her boots. The floor, when they dragged her upright, was smooth and faintly warm, like skin. A core interrogator in a featureless ivory mask awaited her in a room without corners, its walls curved to swallow sound. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The drone injected her with a neural tracer, the needle a silver flash. Her muscles locked. Memories surged. Her father's corpse, the Kythax larvae writhing in their pods. Varek's scarred brow, twitching as he let the enforcers take her. You'll never know why they exiled me. The interrogator tilted his head, studying her tremor. She spat at his mask. The saliva slid off, leaving no mark. Days bled together. They starved her of darkness, of sleep, of anything resembling resistance. But edge-born minds were fractals, sharp-edged and stubborn. She counted the drone's rotations, mapped the chamber's dimensions by the scuff of her bare feet, sang her father's star chant under her breath, the one he'd hummed while soldering the crow's engine. Fractures let the light in. The rescue came on wings of fire. An explosion rocked the prison's eastern block, the shockwave shuddering through her cell. Alarms shrieked, their pitch discordant. The drone veered toward the blast, and in its absence the walls seemed to exhale. A ventilation grate clattered open. A figure dropped into the room, hooded, wiry, reeking of engine grease and fermented algae. Vosk. The voice was raspy, female. Belt clan sends regards. Taryn didn't ask questions. Belt favors came with hooks, but hooks could be climbed. She followed the woman into the ducts, their edges serrated from decades of neglect. The clan runner moved like a rodent, all twitches and pauses. Taryn's knees burned, her lungs clawing for air. Behind them, pulsefire echoed. They emerged into a hangar choked with smoke. A clan skiff idled in the chaos, its hull plated with scavenged core alloy. Taryn hesitated at the ramp. The edge had taught her to distrust salvation. But the skiff's pilot met her gaze, an old man with a milky eye and a grin like broken glass. Heard you've got a taste for Voidmatter, Edge Rattler. She boarded. The skiff lurched into the void, leaving the core's white nightmare behind. The Belt clan's stronghold was a junkyard cathedral. Fragment C9 spun laziously on a crippled axis, its surface a mosaic of crashed ships and patched domes. Clan banners fluttered from antennae, ragged cloth dyed in solar orange and vacuum black. Taryn's saviors brought her to a chamber hollowed from a derelict freighter's engine block. The air stank of ozone and unwashed bodies. A holo projector flickered at the room's center, displaying the ring fragments. Red tendrils pulsed where the Kythax had mined deepest, the void scoops leaching the ring's core like parasites. They're not just harvesting. The clan leader, a gaunt woman with neural implants spider-webbing her skull, gestured at the projection. They're terraforming, sucking the fragments dry to birth more of those things. Taryn's skin prickled. She'd seen the larvae, seen Varek's reverence for the canisters. Why tell me? The woman's smile was a knife slit. Iron Break strategist is hunting you. Paid a fortune in Voidmatter to the clan networks for your location. Varek. The name was an ember in her chest, glowing with fury and something else, something she refused to name. Let him come. He already has. The chamber's door hissed open. Varek stood framed in the threshold, his armor scuffed, his hair matted with ash. A pulse pistol hung at his hip, unholstered. The Belt clan tensed, hands on weapons. Taryn lunged first, her fist connected with his jaw, the impact reverberating up her arm. He staggered but didn't retaliate, blood welling from his split lip. She swung again. He caught her wrist, his grip iron. They'll drain the fragments within 6 months, he said, voice low. The Kythax promised Iron Break dominion over the ruins. Lies. They'll discard us like husks. She wrenched free. You knew. I suspected. Now I know. His cybernetic eye glinted, its lens fractured. You want to stop them? Then shoot me or trust me. The clan watched, silent. Taryn's finger hovered over the trigger of a borrowed pistol. His gaze held hers, unflinching. She saw the boy he must have been, before the core carved him into a weapon. Before exile. She lowered the gun. How? The plan was madness. A Kythax mining rig orbited Fragment X3. Its spindly arms plunged into the ring's crust. Varek's stolen data suggested the rig's core housed a breeding nexus, a hive where larvae matured. Destroy it, and the Kythax would retreat, if only temporarily. They infiltrated via a clan bazaar, a sprawling market built into the carcass of a collapsed orbital elevator. Taryn kept her hood up, her face smeared with grime. Belt merchants hawked bioluminescent eels and stolen core tech, their stalls lit by flickering lanterns. The air thrummed with hagglers' shouts and the reek of fried algae cakes. Varek moved beside her, a shadow in a stolen clan engineer's uniform. The rig's control hub is here. He tapped a holomap on his wrist. We plant charges here, and distraction first, she muttered. A clan hoverbike race was underway nearby, engines screaming as riders weaved through the skeletal remains of the elevator. Taryn approached a bike, its nacelle still glowing from the last race. The pilot, a lanky teen with a face full of piercings, sneered. You ain't Belt. She tossed him a Voidmatter chip stolen from Varek's stash. I am today. The bike's throttle was a live thing, bucking under her as she shot into the track. Varek's voice crackled in her earpiece. Reckless. She grinned, breathless. The crow had taught her speed, but this was different. Raw, unshielded, the wind clawing her face. Core enforcers patrolled the market's edges. Let them chase her. She weaved through the course, the bike's engine a feral howl. Spectators roared. A rival rider sideswiped her. He retaliated by ramming his rear wheel, sending him skidding into a fuel drum. Fire bloomed. Chaos rippled. Varek's charges detonated on schedule. They retreated to a derelict freighter's hold, the clan's payment for services rendered. Taryn's hands shook as she peeled off her gloves. Adrenaline ebbed, leaving her hollow. Varek crouched by a rusted console, recalibrating detonators. You fight like an edge scavenger, he said. All fury, no finesse, and you fight like a core cog. All calculus, no heart. He stilled. For a moment she thought she'd gone too far. Then he reached into his pack, tossed her a medgel patch. Your arm's bleeding. She hadn't noticed the gash. The gel stung, cold and sharp. She watched him work, the precise movements of his hands. Why'd you really defect? The question hung. Outside, The bazaar's chaos dimmed to a distant rumble. I commanded the siege of Sirion Belt, he said, finally. Core intelligence claimed insurgents had bioweapons. They didn't. I glassed the colony anyway. His thumb brushed his scar. They exiled me for disobedience, not for the corpses, for questioning orders. Taryn's throat tightened. She'd seen Sirion's aftermath, a crater filmed over with synthetic ice. You think helping me atones? No. He met her gaze. But it's a start. The Kythax found them at dawn. Taryn was scouting a supply route when the ambush hit. Kythax drones, sleek and insectoid, descended from a cloaked carrier. She sprinted for cover, pulsefire searing the ground. Varek emerged from the freighter, rifle blazing. Left flank, he barked. She dove behind a cargo container, returning fire. The drone's shells shattered like glass, spraying acidic ichor. One clipped her thigh, its talon shredding flesh. She fell, biting back a scream. Varek hauled her up, his arm of ice around her waist. They retreated to a drainage tunnel, the drone's screeches fading behind them. He dumped her against a wall, yanked a medkit from his belt. Stupid, he muttered, injecting her with coagulant. Should have watched the thermal sig. Just patch it, she snarled. Their faces were inches apart. His breath hitched. For a heartbeat something flickered. A bridge across the chasm between them. Then he tightened the bandage and stood. We need to move. The coalition formed in shadows. Edge refugees and belt defectors gathered in a gutted ore processor, its walls scarred by old explosions. Taryn stood on a makeshift stage, her words clumsy. She was no leader, but the crowd leaned in, hungering. Varek spoke instead. He painted the Kythax as the true enemy, the core as a dying beast. His voice, crisp and commanding, spun desperation into strategy. Taryn watched him, the way he straightened when others doubted, the grudging respect he gave a belt mechanic's sabotage plan. After, they huddled over a holotable. You're good at this, she admitted. I was trained to manipulate crowds. His jaw tightened. This isn't that. She almost believed him. The hive ship loomed in high orbit, a tumorous mass of biomechanical flesh. Taryn's fighter streaked toward it, flanked by clan skiffs. Varek's voice guided her through the Kythax's defensive swarm. Bank left. Their sensors can't track ionic interference. Since when do you fly? I read your manuals. A near smile tugged her lips. They breached the hive's membrane, the fighter shuddering as organic matter scraped its hull. The interior pulsed with veins of Voidmatter, larvae clinging to the walls. Taryn planted charges, her boots sticking to the spongy floor. Varek's signal vanished mid-transmission. She found him in a nest chamber, Kythax drones pinning him beneath their serrated limbs. His rifle lay shattered. Without hesitation, she detonated a charge prematurely. The blast threw her into a wall, but the drones recoiled. He grabbed her hand. They fled, the hive ship convulsing. At the airlock he pulled her close. His kiss was bruising, desperate, a spark in the void. For luck, he rasped. They escaped as the hive erupted, trailing fire and ichor. In the aftermath, Taryn sat in the crow's cockpit, Varek's Voidmatter, cash glowing beside her. He'd sacrificed it to buy the clan's loyalty, to buy her loyalty. She watched him through the viewport, his silhouette sharp against the stars. He was rebuilding a salvaged mech, his motions methodical, redeeming himself one bolt at a time. The fragments still crumbled. The Kythax still hungered. But for now they had this, a coalition forged in quiet trust, and a debt unpaid. She powered up the engines. The next fragment awaited. Chapter 3. The core ring hung in the void like a broken crown, its once pristine spires now jagged teeth gnawing at the stars. Taryn guided the dusk crow through the debris field, the ship's engines whining as they navigated the carcass of a Kythax carrier, its biomechanical hull oozing viscous ichor. Behind her, the coalition fleet lurked in the shadow of a derelict orbital station. Belt skiffs patched with scrap metal, edge fighters still smeared with ash from burning settlements. They were ghosts, all of them. Ghosts with teeth. Varek's voice crackled over the comm, steady but fraying at the edges. The Citadel's shields cycle every 47 seconds. We'll have a 9-second window. She didn't answer. Words felt too heavy, too final. Instead, she watched his fighter glide into position on her scanner. A core interceptor he'd stolen and repainted matte black, its edges filed sharp. It suited him, a blade in the dark. The core's heart loomed ahead, obsidian monolith studded with pulse cannons. Its surface shimmered with a sickly iridescence, void matter veins thrumming beneath the armor like poisoned blood. Taryn's hands tightened on the controls. This close, the ring's decay was visceral. Fractures spider-webbed across its surface, glowing faintly as the Kythax drill burrowed deeper. A needle in the womb of the world. They breached the shield during the 7th cycle. The crow shuddered as it pierced the Citadel's defenses, alarms blaring. Taryn ejected into a service duct, her boots magnetizing to the cold alloy. The air here was too clean, scrubbed of grit and sweat. Core efficiency, core sterility. She followed the tremors in the floor, mechanical throbs leading to the drill's control nexus. Varek met her at a junction, his face half lit by emergency strips. A fresh cut marred his cheekbone, and his breathing was uneven. She didn't ask. They moved in tandem, a dance honed through ambushes and midnight retreats. The Citadel's belly was a cathedral to arrogance. Glassite pillars framed the drill's control hub, its gears grinding as it siphoned void matter from the ring's core. Kythax larvae clung to the machinery, their translucent bodies pulsing in rhythm. Taryn's stomach turned. They were birthing something here, something worse. Charges there, and there. Varek pointed to structural weak points, his cybernetic eye whirring as it calculated trajectories. She nodded, priming the explosives. His fingers brushed hers as he passed a detonator. A spark, a hesitation. Grand Executor Dern is mine, he said. It wasn't a request. The throne room stank of incense and decay. Dern sat atop a dais of fused bone. Enemy commanders, rebels, traitors. His ivory robes pooled around him like melted snow, his face a mask of serene necrosis. Taryn lingered in the archway, pulse rifle raised as Varek approached. Syth. Dern's voice was a wheeze, the sound of a lung drowning in fluid. You've come to beg forgiveness. Varek didn't flinch. I've come to watch you burn. The Grand Executor laughed, a wet rattle. You think this changes anything? The core made you. Your hands will never be clean. A hologram bloomed above the dais. Syrian belts annihilation. Cities melting under orbital fire. Varek's shoulders stiffened. You obeyed. Dern crooned. You chose duty. What is this? Farce but another lie. Taryn's finger hovered over the trigger. She could end this. Should end this. But Varek's voice cut through the static. I choose her. The detonator clicked. Mia's chaos. Then clarity. The charges erupted in sequence, the Citadel's spine snapping. Taryn sprinted through buckling corridors, Varek at her heels. Behind them the drill collapsed, void matter geysering into the sky. The coalition fleet surged forward, strafing Kythax reinforcements. They reached the hangar as the floor disintegrated. Varek's interceptor was gone, crushed under falling debris. He shoved Taryn toward the crow. Go. She grabbed his wrist. Not without you. The words hung, raw and unvarnished. For a heartbeat the war faded. Then he followed. The execution order came as they fled the ring. A core dreadnought intercepted them near the belt's edge, its hull emblazoned with Dern's sigil. Varek's face hardened as the transmission played. A tribunal sentencing. His crimes etched in blood and fire. They'll hunt you forever, Taryn said softly. He studied the stars, his reflection fractured in the viewport. I know. She powered up the thrusters. Good. The fragments stabilized, though scars remained. Taryn stood at the crow's helm, a navigational chart glowing faintly. Varek sat in the co-pilot's seat, reprogramming a salvaged drone. They didn't speak of Syrian, didn't speak of the kiss. Some truths needed no voice. The comm buzzed. A belt distress signal. She glanced at him. He smirked. Efficiency rating. Adequate. The crow banked toward the stars, its engines humming a lullaby for the damned. Mias. Epilogue. The rings turned, low and eternal, their fractures glinting in the starlight. Somewhere below, a new coalition rebuilt. Somewhere ahead, 1,000 battles waited. In the cockpit, Taryn traced a constellation on the glass. Varek's hand covered hers, Brief and electric, no vows, no promises, only the void, and the light they'd carved through it.